Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Are you ready to unlock some serious entrepreneurial wisdom?
I'm ready.
Because today we're going deep into a book that's practically a Bible for startups, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
It's a classic.
It really is. And the sources you sent in excerpts, translated from Hindi and even a YouTube summary, tell me you're looking for those light bulb moments, those actionable insights that could help you build a successful company or maybe even launch your own groundbreaking idea.
It's amazing how 0 to 1 is so much more than just your typical business book.
Yeah.
Thiel really pushes you to think differently. It's not about following the crowd.
Right?
It's about forging your own path, about creating something truly new.
Yeah.
He calls it going from 0 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
That spark of invention, that moment when something comes into existence that wasn't there before.
It's like instead of opening another pizza place in a city that's already overflowing with pizza, you come up with a whole new type of cuisine.
Exactly.
Thiel says this 0 to 1 thinking is the secret sauce to building a company that's truly valuable and stands the test of time.
And he uses an example from his own life. PayPal.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the early days of the internet?
Oh,
Sending money online.
it was a nightmare.
A total nightmare.
Ah,
Then comes PayPal. Suddenly you can send money to anyone with just an email address.
yeah.
It was a total game changer.
It really was. So we're talking about looking at everyday problems, things everyone just accepts as that's how it is, and saying, wait a minute.
Right.
There has to be a better way, a completely new solution. And this 0 to 1 thinking isn't just for tech geniuses either. It can apply to any field, any industry.
Absolutely. Any field.
So let me ask you this. What's a truth you believe in your own field that most people would disagree with? Could that be your own 0 to 1 idea waiting to be unleashed?
That's a great question to think about.
Definitely something to ponder. Okay, before we get ahead of ourselves, we have to address one of Thiel's most controversial arguments, his view on monopolies. Now, before you think he's advocating for corporate villains, just hear him out. He actually argues that monopolies, specifically the ones built on genuine innovation, can be a force for good.
It's really interesting how Thiel flips the traditional script. He argues that while competition is often seen as this holy grail in business, it can sometimes lead to this cutthroat environment where companies are so busy battling each other that they actually lose sight of the bigger picture innovation. Monopolies, on the other hand, especially the ones built on some kind of proprietary technology, have the resources and the breathing room to focus on those long-term advancements.
It's like the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
That's a good one.
Maybe monopolies, because they're not constantly fighting for survival, have the runaway to go further with innovation. And Thiel uses Google as the perfect example. Their proprietary search algorithm gave them a monopoly, essentially. And he says that dominant position allowed them to invest in projects that a smaller company wouldn't even dream of, things like self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Google Maps even research into extending human lifespan.
Exactly. Those are ambitious, potentially world-changing projects that take a ton of resources and a long-term vision. It really makes you wonder, does fierce competition always lead to the best outcomes, or can it sometimes stifle those big game-changing innovations?
So would we have Google Maps if Google was constantly fighting for survival against a dozen other equally powerful competitors? It makes you think.
Yeah, it does.
But let's be real. The word monopoly still has a lot of baggage.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For many people, it conjures up images of these giant corporations squeezing out the little guy and raising prices.
And Thiel addresses that directly.
Yeah.
He's very clear that there's a difference between monopolies built on real innovation and those that just exploit their power to crush the competition unfairly. Think of it this way. Google built a better search engine, a better product that people chose to use, even if it meant Google becoming dominant. That's different from a company that uses its power to manipulate markets and stifle genuine competition. Healthy monopolies, according to Thiel, are built on things like proprietary technology network, effects, economies of scale, strong branding. They're not just dominating an existing market, they're creating entirely new markets and new possibilities.
So for someone who's trying to build a successful business, what's the takeaway here? Should they be aiming to become the next Google right out of the gate?
Well, Thiel's advice is a bit more nuanced. He actually recommends starting by dominating a niche market.
Okay.
And then expanding from that position of strength. He uses Amazon as an example. They started as the world's biggest bookstore. They established themselves in that niche and then branched out into, well, pretty much everything.
Yeah, they sell everything.
The key is to become the undisputed champion in your chosen area before you aim for world domination.
So find your puddle and rule it. But, and this is important, Thiel also warns against becoming a disruption in a bad way, like Napster was to the music industry.
Yeah.
They disrupted things for sure, but they didn't offer a real alternative, a true 0-to-1 solution. The real magic happens when you create something so valuable that it doesn't just disrupt, it creates a whole new market, a whole new way of doing things.
That's the goal.
Okay, so we've talked about 0-to-1, thinking we've challenged the traditional view of monopolies. And now I want to shift gears and explore another key theme that runs throughout the book. Thiel's concept of definite optimism. This is where we start connecting the dots between his ideas and the mindset of a successful entrepreneur.
Okay.
He argues that successful founders aren't just dreamers. They're planners, builders with a concrete vision for the future and the drive to make it happen.
And I love that story he tells about Jack Dorsey's tweet, "Success is never accidental."
It's so simple, but so powerful.
It cut through all the talk about luck and reminds us that real success comes from a clear vision, careful planning, and relentless execution.
And this ties directly into another concept. Thiel explores the power law, also known as the Pareto principle.
Right.
You've probably heard of it. The idea that roughly 80% of effects come from 20% of causes. Thiel applies this principle not just to individual success, but to the entire startup ecosystem.
It's fascinating how he does that.
Break that down for me. How does the power law apply to startups?
Well, think about it. Venture-backed companies represent the tiny fraction of all the businesses out there, right?
Yeah.
But they create a huge percentage of jobs and economic growth.
Why?
Why? Because they're laser focused on creating massive value, not just tiny incremental gains. This is a really important insight for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, because it suggests that you might have a bigger impact by joining a company with huge growth potential, even if you don't own 100% of it, than if you stick with a smaller venture that's not likely to reach those incredible heights.
So it's kind of like bet on the rocket ship, not the rowboat.
Exactly.
Even a small slice of a giant pie can be worth more than the whole of a tiny one.
It really puts things in perspective.
It does. It's not just about the money, it's about maximizing your impact. Thiel believes the most talented people should be working on the most important problems. And the power law suggests that those huge world-changing successes often come from a very small number of ventures.
That's a powerful idea.
It is. So we've covered 0-to-1, thinking a fresh perspective on monopolies, the power of definite optimism, and the power law. And there's so much more to uncover.
Oh yeah, we've just scratched the surface.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the brilliant mind of Peter Thiel and his game-changing ideas.
I can't wait.
Me neither. All right, we're back for part 2 of our deep dive into 0-to-1, and I'm ready to keep uncovering those golden nuggets of wisdom.
There are plenty more where those came from.
Let's jump into another crucial piece of the puzzle that Thiel really emphasizes: distribution and marketing.
So important.
It's often overlooked, especially by founders who are so focused on building the perfect product or service. It's that build it and they will come mentality. You pour your heart and soul into creating something amazing, and then crickets.
Yeah, it happens.
Thiel argues that even the most revolutionary idea will fail if no one knows about it or can easily access it.
Exactly. It's not enough to just have a great product. You have to get it in front of the right people.
He even compares a good salesperson to a stage actor.
I love that analogy.
It might seem effortless, but there's a ton of hard work and preparation behind it, and a deep understanding of your audience.
It's all about connecting with people and telling a compelling story.
Right. And that's where Thiel's focus on the human element really shines through. Even in our increasingly digital world, those human connections and the power of persuasion are still so important.
Absolutely.
So for someone who's ready to take their product or service out into the world, what's the key takeaway here?
Be creative about distribution. Think beyond just building a website. Are you exploring all the ways to reach your target market? Social media partnerships, even just good old-fashioned word of mouth.
Word of mouth is so powerful.
It really is.
But what about the more technical side of things, like calculating customer lifetime value and customer acquisition cost?
Right.
Those terms can be a bit intimidating for someone who's new to all this.
They can sound a bit like jargon, I know, but understanding them is key to building a sustainable business. Customer lifetime value is about figuring out how much each customer is worth to your company over the long haul.
So it's about more than just a single transaction. It's about building those long-term relationships.
Exactly. And customer acquisition cost is about understanding how much you're spending to attract each new customer. The goal is to find that sweet spot where the value you're creating far outweighs the cost of getting those new customers.
Makes sense. But all this talk about marketing and customers makes me wonder, where does technology fit into all of this? Does Thiel think we should just replace humans with algorithms and automation?
Well, he actually has a very interesting take on that. He believes that humans and machines aren't enemies. They're actually partners. Technology can amplify human capabilities.
I remember that example he uses about PayPal's fraud detection system. They had these sophisticated algorithms, but in the end, it was still human analysts who made the final decisions.
Right. It was the combination of machine intelligence and human judgment that made the system so effective.
It's like having a superpowered assistant.
Exactly.
Technology can handle those routine tasks, freeing up humans to focus on the things machines can't do, things that require creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence.
And this ties back into Thiel's overall philosophy of definite optimism. He believes that technology can be this incredible force for good, but it's up to us humans to guide its development and make sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
Right. It's about being intentional and thoughtful about how we integrate technology into our lives and businesses. Now I want to switch gears again and talk about something that I know is especially relevant to you as an aspiring entrepreneur. Thiel's thoughts on what makes a successful founder.
This is one of my favorite parts of the book.
It gets really interesting here. Thiel isn't afraid to explore the more unconventional, even controversial side of entrepreneurship. He points out that many successful founders have traits that might seem unusual or even counterproductive in a traditional business setting.
And he's not wrong.
Remember that illustration in the book, the one that shows these extreme founders?
Yeah, with all those different personality traits.
He argues that these founders often have this unique mix of strengths and weaknesses. They're driven, visionary, incredibly charismatic, but they can also be stubborn, demanding, even prone to conflict.
It's like there's a certain level of weirdness or unconventionality that's necessary to really break the mold and do something extraordinary.
Like those classic stories of artists or musicians who were seen as outcasts, but ended up changing the world with their unique vision.
Exactly. And Thiel doesn't just theorize about this. He gives real-world examples.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, known for his brilliance and his demanding leadership style. Richard Branson, always pushing the boundaries.
Huh.
Elon Musk with his vision for colonizing Mars. These are all people who operate outside the norm, who see the world differently, and who aren't afraid to take big risks.
It's inspiring, but it can also feel a bit daunting. Not everyone is cut out to be a Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk.
True.
So does that mean you have to have a certain type of personality to succeed as an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. I don't think Thiel is saying that you need to try to be like these larger-than-life figures or force yourself into a mold that doesn't fit. I think it's more about recognizing that there's no single formula for success.
Right. It's about being authentically you.
Exactly. Even if you is a little different from what people might expect from a typical business leader.
Yeah.
But of course, there's another side to this. Those same qualities that can drive innovation and success can also sometimes lead to problems like conflict or burnout.
That's true. It's a balancing act.
It is. And that's why Thiel's concept of definite optimism is so important. It's not about ignoring the challenges. It's about believing in your ability to overcome them and create something better.
So it's about being bold and ambitious, but also responsible and self-aware.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have, from distribution and marketing to founder personality.
And there's still more to come.
The best is yet to come.
In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore Thiel's own vision for the future and leave you with some thought-provoking questions to consider as you embark on your own entrepreneurial adventures.
I can't wait to get into it.
Stay tuned for the grand finale of our 0 to 1 journey.
All right, we're back for the final part of our 0 to 1 deep dive. And I'm really excited to explore this last piece of the puzzle, Thiel's vision for the future.
It's not your typical prediction, that's for sure.
So tell me, what does Thiel see coming down the road?
Well, he's definitely not shying away from the challenges. We've got climate change, political instability, the potential dangers of technology if it's not controlled. He sees those problems, but he doesn't let them get him down.
It's like he's saying, yeah, things are messy, but we can't let that stop us. We can still create a better future.
Exactly. And that's where his definite optimism comes in. It's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about acknowledging the problems, but believing we can solve them.
It's about taking action, right? It's about being a builder, someone who shapes the future instead of just watching it happen.
And he's really challenging us to be those builders, to find the areas where we can make a difference.
To think outside the box, to challenge those old ways of thinking and really create something new and valuable.
And it's not just about business. It's about every part of life.
Oh, I see. So it's about applying that 0 to 1 mindset to everything.
Exactly. Whether you're inventing something new, creating art, starting a movement, it's about making a real contribution.
It's contagious, isn't it? Reading Thiel's ideas makes me feel like anything is possible.
I know what you mean. It's inspiring.
It makes you realize that we're not just along for the ride, we can actually steer things in a better direction.
That's the power of his work. It's not just about building a business. It's a whole way of thinking about the world. Facing challenges with creativity and determination and believing in human potential.
And even though he uses a lot of examples from technology, his ideas feel relevant to any field.
Totally.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, an artist, a scientist, anyone who wants to create something new and make a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into 0 to 1, let's leave our listener with a few key takeaways.
Okay, I like it.
Embrace that 0 to 1 mindset. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo, to think differently, and create something truly new and valuable. Remember the power of definite optimism. Acknowledge the challenges, but believe in your ability to overcome them and build a better future.
And don't forget the importance of building a strong team.
Oh, that's crucial. Surround yourself with people who share your passion and your vision.
People who are in it for the long haul.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, the future isn't set in stone. It's up to us to create it.
So go out there and build something amazing. Start that company, write that book, solve that problem. The world is waiting.
It really is.
That's it for our deep dive into 0 to 1. We hope you enjoyed the journey and that you're leaving feeling inspired and ready to tackle your own 0 to 1 challenges. Thanks for joining us.